Okay, so the last video just cut out, so we're going to try this again. I'm starting from number 19, elastic. Stretching. That's Hamilton. Jefferson wants to make sure he protects the bottom. That's the 10th Amendment. Remember, champion for the common man. That's an anti-federalist. Whereas Hamilton is a federalist, likes the top to have a little bit more power. Now, other things I have on this page, I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like this page is good. 22 and 23, make sure you understand Industrial Revolution happens before the Civil War as well as after the Civil War. That's your Lowell Mills, your textiles, all that stuff. And remember, that industrialization happens in what area of the country? The North, right? And that difference is what kind of causes that sectional divide between, and there's your Civil War. So kind of one of those things to kind of take into account. Make sure you know that. Also, isolationism, Washington, know that. I think you're pretty good on that one. All right, next page. Number 24 is Trail of Tears. Just know your stuff. You should know it. Big deal. Jackson. John Marshall's made his decision and let him enforce it. Pretty unconstitutional, King Andrew, but nice. Okay, then of course you have, how would you characterize Jackson's presidency? Every year a lot of people have a hard time with that one. But remember, is he a champion for the common man? Or is he King Andrew? Or is he a spoil system? Or is he a jackass? I said it because, remember, it's a symbol for the Democratic Party. So I can say, get away with it. Okay, but something to think about there. I did circle number 26 on this one. That's your Seneca Falls Convention. However, I want to make sure you understand this. It didn't start in 1849, okay? It starts all the way back with Anne Hutchinson, Abigail Adams, remember the ladies, all that kind of stuff like that. But it's actually that second great awakening, that reform movement. Remember women's rights, abolitionism, asylum, Dorothy Dix, your temperance movement, all that stuff like that. All those reform movements that kind of lift up the Civil War and that reform movement of abolitionism. But the women's rights movement starts before the Civil War. They got screwed by the Civil War, but then they'll get it later, and that's something you're going to talk about after Christmas with Mr. Gem, the 19th Amendment. But it starts in Seneca Falls, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott, Susan B. Anthony. They want equal rights, Seneca Falls, okay? Number 27 I have is circled. You better know your stuff. How did we start the Civil War? A lot of different ways. You've got Missouri Compromise. Here's one, okay? And this also goes with another, number 28 too. You've got Missouri Compromise. You've got Kansas-Nebraska Act. You've got Compromise of 1850. You can even throw out the Wilmot Proviso. Remember the Mexican-American War? The one that said all that land should be free, and they were like, that ain't happening. Okay, so you can do a lot of that. But bleeding Kansas is one thing that I want to make sure you remember. And that Kansas-Nebraska Act, popular sovereignty, because it was above the 3630 line, that is going to remove or repeal, better vocab word, it's going to repeal the Missouri Compromise. So remember, the Missouri Compromise was a Band-Aid. You put it on a cut, it stops the bleeding. You rip off the Band-Aid, bleeding Kansas, blood everywhere. And that's your Civil War. Reconstruction, we did an essay over Reconstruction, so I'm going to tell you, you probably should know that, but I will point you back to the fact that, remember, we did the web, and we did everything in Reconstruction, like, Compromise of 1877, Jim Crow laws, segregation in education, Freedmen's Bureau, that kind of stuff like that. What does Reconstruction look like? Look at that web. That web will save you, okay? Know that web. Settling the West, I think y'all are good with that one. Know your American Indian policies. Number 32, top of the page, Trail of Tears, Buffalo Extermination, Dawes Act, Battle of Little Bighorn. Dawes Act is probably the most important one. Make sure you remember assimilation didn't work, okay? I really feel like you should be good on this page, except for, I think number 35 might be something that you might want to look at, explain and justify the theory of laissez-faire. Laissez-faire. Let it what? Be. Remember, during the Industrial Revolution, the government's like, hands off, dude, you do what you do. You make money, and we're happy, because if the businesses are making money, then we're making money, and they're good to go. So my robber barons, my titans of industry, remember Rockefeller with the White House in the palm of his hand getting money out of it, right? And the Capitol's his oil factory. These guys are just running the country. It's laissez-faire. Government's not doing anything. So they are going to justify that because they're saying we're doing good for the company or country, and our companies are doing good. So we have workers, and workers are working. And if you wanted to be like me, you should be stronger. Survival of the fittest, right? Social Darwinism. So all that kind of stuff is going to come into it. Make sure you understand, let it be. Number 38. Social gospel versus gospel wealth. Know it. Know the difference, okay? Big difference. Carnegie versus Jane Addams. Not that they don't have the best of intentions each, but remember, social gospel is more about religion, salvation. Gospel of wealth is more about philanthropy. Ooh, use that word, philanthropy. Number 39, populism. The back of your populism notes, we have that like a chart of what all the populist platform was. Study that, just big time. You got some amendments, you got some laws, Sherman antitrust. Remember, populism is all about the little guy, okay? It's a reform movement for the farmers, the common man, okay? And then that gives way to progressivism, which is about people. Now, last page. Ready? Here we go. Okay, this is stuff that you've been doing recently, so I think it'll be a little fresher on your mind. However, it doesn't mean it's not difficult. So we start off, I think y'all are good muckrakers. I do think that number 43 is one that you might not know exactly what I'm looking for. So look at it. My answer is the progressive movement. We just talked about it. Progress, remember, circle progress, okay, for the people, to protect the people. And to regulate, what's a regulation? A rule, right? The businesses, industries, trusts, robber barons, etc., all that kind of stuff like that. Remember, your first progressive president is Teddy. Teddy is the one that wasn't supposed to be president, but he is president, and maybe he's going to whoop up on some trust. He's a trust buster. Remember that, okay? Trust buster. I got to look at the little hole right here. I keep looking at my picture. Sorry, it's a little awkward. Number 44 gets them every time. The Federal Reserve. Remember, we focus more on Wilson for World War I. That's what you're going to be doing after the break, okay? So make sure you watch your World War I notes. It's just 3 little videos, okay? But he always gets all the info for World War I. However, he was a progressive president. He passed the Federal Reserve. To reserve something means to save it. Make sure you know that, okay? So when he saves, okay, money in the economy, regulates the financial money supply, it's going to regulate the money supply. It's kind of like what bimetallism didn't want to do, he does do. And so the Federal Reserve makes all these companies